Lena never meant to be seen. Working as a live-in housekeeper in a quiet corner of Boston, she moved like a shadow, silent, efficient, invisible. That's how she survived, by blending in, not standing out. But one night changed everything. Joel, her employer, a cold but successful businessman, asked her to come to a dinner with investors. Not to speak, not to join, just to be there. "Dress nice," he said. "And don't say a word." Lena obeyed. But when the moment came, she couldn't stay silent. What she said didn't just shift the mood in the room, it cracked open a door that had always been closed to her. Joel had been pacing his office all morning. Not in his usual, calculated way, this was something else. Urgency. Frustration. A hint of panic. Stacks of folders lay open across his desk. His phone buzzed every few minutes with follow-ups from his assistant, his lawyer, someone from the board. The company was in trouble. And time was running out. Lena, down on her knees, was polishing the floor like she always did every Tuesday. She had learned to blend into the background. To make herself smaller in his world of glass walls, sleek furniture, and power suits. She never made noise. She never asked questions. She just noticed things. Like how Joel's tie was never the same 2 days in a row. Or how he tapped his pen 3 times before answering a difficult question. Today he wasn't tapping. He was staring at the wall like it had betrayed him. Then, out of nowhere, "You." Lena looked up, cloth still in her hand. Joel was pointing at her. "You'll come with me tonight." She blinked. Was that directed at her? "Dress decent. Don't speak. Just look appropriate." His voice was sharp, final. Lena opened her mouth and closed it again. Not because she feared him, but because something in his tone told her this wasn't about her. It was about whatever storm he was trying to hold back. She stood slowly. "What time?" Joel looked surprised for half a second. Then he turned away, already done with the conversation. 6. Sharp. That night, Lena stood in front of her tiny closet. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the one dress she owned that wasn't a uniform. It was navy blue. Plain but clean. She brushed her hair, wiped her shoes, and looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman staring back. Not the girl from the kitchen. Not the one scrubbing floors. Someone else. Someone waiting. Waiting for what? A chance. Not to be rescued. Not even to be rewarded. Just to be seen. In the car, Joel said nothing. He didn't look at her. His phone buzzed constantly and he answered in clipped phrases. "Delay them 10 minutes. No. That's off the table. Just handle it." Lena sat with her hands folded in her lap. The lights of Boston passed in streaks outside the window. She had no idea where they were going. Only that whatever it was, it wasn't normal. Joel finally turned to her just as they pulled into the restaurant. "Remember? You're just background." She nodded. But deep down something shifted. If tonight was just a backdrop for him, maybe it was a beginning for her. The valet opened the door. Joel stepped out first, adjusting his cufflinks, jaw tight. Lena followed, stepping carefully onto the pavement in her plain navy dress. She didn't belong here and she knew it. The restaurant was the kind that whispered wealth. Dark wood walls. Soft golden lighting. Tables spaced just far enough for privacy but close enough for power plays. They were led to a private room in the back. 6 men were already there, laughing, sipping whiskey. They looked up as Joel entered. "Gentlemen," Joel said. His voice smooth again as if the chaos of earlier had never happened. All eyes turned to Lena. "This is, my associate Lena?" A few exchanged looks. One of them, a silver-haired man with a loud tie, raised an eyebrow. "New hire?" he asked with a smirk. Joel smiled tightly. "She's not here to talk." The table chuckled. Except Lena. She kept her gaze steady, quiet. But inside her chest burned. They ordered. Talk numbers. Mergers. Blame. Opportunities. Lena listened. Not just to the words, but to the spaces between them. The fear no one admitted. The desperation dressed as strategy. The way Joel kept trying to sound in control, but his hand never left his glass. At one point, the man with the loud tie leaned toward Joel. "Gotta say," he said, nodding at Lena. Bold move, bringing the help. Adds a little flavor to the room. The others laughed. Joel didn't respond. He looked away. And Lena, she spoke. Sometimes, she said quietly, it takes someone outside the system to see where it's broken. Silence. The man blinked. Sorry. Lena didn't raise her voice. Didn't flinch. You all keep talking about numbers, she said. But no one's talking about people. About why trust is gone. Why your partners are pulling out. Joel shot her a warning look. But the others, they were staring. Lena continued. There's no strategy that works when your team doesn't believe in you. You don't need a new pitch deck. You need new leadership. A long pause. Then, one of the younger investors leaned forward. What do you do, Lena? She met his eyes. I clean. Another silence. But this one was different. Respectful. Curious. Joel cleared his throat. We should move on. They did. But the tone had shifted. The room had shifted. Joel's control had slipped, just a little. And Lena? She wasn't just background anymore. The car ride home was silent. But not the calm kind. The kind where tension builds with every red light. Every street corner. Every second Joel's knuckles tightened around the wheel. Lena sat with her hands folded again. Just like earlier. But this time she wasn't nervous. She wasn't ashamed. She was ready. When they pulled into the driveway, Joel didn't wait for the engine to stop. He threw the door open, slammed it shut, and stormed toward the house. Lena followed. Slowly. Quietly. Inside, the hallway light flickered. Joel paced the length of the living room like a trapped animal. Then he turned on her. What the hell was that tonight? Lena didn't answer. Not yet. You spoke out of turn. You undermined me. You humiliated me in front of people I've known for years. His voice was rising. Faster than his breath. You are a housekeeper. He spat the word like it was dirty. Not a consultant. Not a partner. Not someone anyone asked to hear from. Still Lena said nothing. Do you know what you cost me? Joel shouted. You had one job. Show up. Stay quiet. Look decent. He stepped closer. His face inches from hers. And you couldn't even do that. Lena's voice was soft. But steady. I said what needed to be said. Joel blinked. Like he couldn't believe she'd responded. His hands balled into fists. I should have never brought you. She nodded. Maybe not. But I didn't lie. And you know it. He stared at her for a long time. Then 3 words. You're fired. Lena didn't flinch. Didn't argue. She walked past him, up the stairs, and began packing. 1 suitcase. No hesitation. She folded her uniform last. Placed it on top. Zipped the bag. When she came back down, Joel was standing in the doorway. His jaw tight. His hands still clenched. I gave you a home. Lena paused. You gave me a room. She walked out. Back straight. Steps firm. She didn't slam the door. She didn't look back. She had no job. No place to stay. But her dignity? Still intact. And regret? None. Lena woke early. Not from an alarm. Just habit. She lay still for a moment on the lumpy mattress of a budget motel room, staring at the ceiling, letting the weight of the night before settle in. Fired, gone, done. She had no plan. No savings to stretch. Just a packed suitcase and an old phone with a cracked screen. She exhaled slowly and sat up. There was something oddly peaceful about rock bottom. At least there was nowhere lower to fall. She sipped lukewarm coffee from a plastic cup and tried not to think about Joel, about the look on his face, about how good it had felt, just for one moment, to be heard. Then the phone rang, a sharp, sudden ring that felt too loud for such a quiet room. She stared at it for a second, then picked up. Hello. A pause, then a familiar voice. This is Clay. From last night. Lena sat straighter. Mr. Clay? I hope I'm not calling too early. No, it's fine. Another pause. Then, I was impressed. Lena didn't speak. Didn't know what to say. You said things most people in that room were too scared to say. You saw through the noise. She swallowed. Thank you. I want to offer you something, he continued. Our firm is building a new team, one that actually listens. We need people who aren't just polished. We need people who've seen the world from the ground up. Lena blinked. Was this real? I know this is sudden. But if you're willing, we'd like you to join us. She looked down at her hands, calloused, strong. Hands that had scrubbed floors, changed sheets, held silence like a shield. And now, someone was asking for her voice. I'm willing, she said softly. Clay chuckled on the other end. I had a feeling. He gave her the details, where to go, when to be there, what to expect. When the call ended, Lena didn't cry. She didn't laugh. She just sat very still, letting it all sink in. Then she stood, opened the suitcase, and chose a new outfit. Not because it was expensive, but because it was hers. That morning she walked out of the motel and into a world she never thought would make space for her. And for the first time in her life, she was walking toward something that felt like hers. The room was glass-walled and silent, except for the hum of the city outside. 10 chairs. One long table. And a folder with Joel's name on it, centered perfectly at his seat. He walked in brisk and polished. Power still clung to his posture. The room had always belonged to him, until now. He stopped mid-step. At the head of the table, seated comfortably and already reviewing notes, was Lena. She didn't flinch. Didn't glance up in surprise. She already knew. Joel didn't sit. Not right away. He stood there stunned. Lena looked up, met his eyes, then turned calmly to the room. Before we begin, she said, let's formally introduce our newest equity partner. Murmurs. Curious glances. The senior board member nodded toward Joel. Our former majority stakeholder is now in joint partnership. Thanks to the acquisition from Clarion Group, represented by Lena Vo. Clarion. The firm Clay belonged to. The firm that now held real leverage. Lena. Sitting at the head. Representing the company that just bought into Joel's. She wore a deep green blouse. Hair pulled back. Composed. Grounded. Joel blinked slowly. It didn't compute. The last time he saw her, she had a suitcase in her hand. And now, she held the room. He finally moved. Took his seat. Stiff. Careful. The meeting began. Financial reports. Upcoming changes. Realignments. Lena spoke with clarity. Asked the right questions. Listened more than she talked. Joel kept glancing over. Trying to find the crack in the surface. Some trace of the woman who once scrubbed his floor. But there was no crack. Only presence. During a coffee break, Joel approached her. Cleared his throat. Didn't expect to see you here, he said. Lena turned. Met his gaze. I figured. He looked around. Guess things changed. They did, she said. A beat. You look different. I am. Another pause. Joel shifted his weight. I suppose I should say congratulations. You don't have to. Joel nodded slowly. But his pride winced. He turned away. But just before walking off he stopped. I didn't think you'd last, he said quieter. Lena's voice was calm. I didn't think I'd come back. She walked past him. Back into the room. Joel stood alone in the hallway. The balance of power had shifted. And he felt it. In every step that echoed behind her. Joel showed up early. Earlier than anyone. Just like he used to. He spread out his notes. Prepared talking points. Reviewed numbers he barely believed in. But the room no longer turned when he entered. No longer paused to wait for his thoughts. Lena walked in 10 minutes later. No fanfare. Just presence. She greeted everyone by name. Asked about their families. Listened when they spoke. Joel watched from across the table. Eyes narrowed. He thought being louder meant being heard. He forgot that trust was a quiet thing. Board meetings grew more tense. Joel pushed aggressive proposals. Big mergers. Flashy campaigns. Moves that made headlines but not sense. The numbers didn't add up. And when questions came, he deflected. Blamed markets. Blamed timing. Blamed everyone but himself. Meanwhile, Lena sat back. Asked smarter questions. Suggested smaller, more sustainable changes. She didn't dominate. She guided. One by one, the board members shifted. Not all at once. But enough. Joel noticed, and resented it. He stayed late at the office, tried to rally allies, sent back-channel emails, but whispers grew. He's grasping. She's the future. Then came the final straw. Joel made a deal, behind closed doors, with a private investor who promised a financial lifeline. But it broke protocol, bypassed board approval, violated trust. He thought he could present it as a victory, as a masterstroke, until Lena found out. She walked into his office that morning with a folder in hand. "Tell me this isn't what it looks like," she said. Joel looked up from his desk. Didn't answer. "You went around the board?" Silence. "You hid this." More silence. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You keep saying leadership is about vision," she said. "But you act like it's about control." Joel leaned back, arms crossed, defensive. "I'm doing what needs to be done." "No," Lena said. "You're doing what makes you feel important." He flinched. Just a little. She laid the folder on his desk, turned to leave, then paused. "We're not in the same story anymore, Joel," she said. "And the board? They're already writing the next chapter." The meeting room felt colder than usual, even with the morning sun cutting through the glass walls. The board sat in silence. Joel stood at the end of the table, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Lena placed the folder in front of everyone, took her seat, then looked straight at Joel. "This isn't just about one deal," she began. "It's about a pattern. Years of choices made behind closed doors, without accountability." Joel's voice was sharp. "I made decisions to save this company." "No," Lena replied. "You made decisions to save face." A murmur moved through the room. Someone nodded. Lena continued. "You bypassed the board. You violated protocol. You put our reputation at risk." Joel took a step forward. "I did what I had to." "No," she said again, firmer this time. "You still don't get it." She stood. "Leadership isn't about control. It's about responsibility." The room was still. Only the hum of the city outside filled the silence. One of the senior board members cleared his throat. "We've reviewed everything." Joel turned, eyes scanning the faces around him. "We've decided," the man continued, "to remove Joel from executive duties effective immediately." Joel blinked. "What?" "You'll remain a shareholder," another added, "but without operational control." It was swift, clean, final. Joel stood frozen. Not angry, not yet. Just stunned. Lena sat down again. Didn't gloat. Didn't smile. She looked tired, but steady. Joel left the room without another word. He wandered the hallway, past offices that used to stop buzzing when he walked by. Now no one looked up. He entered his office, sat down, stared at the city skyline. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. He leaned forward, pressed his palms to his face, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful. He just felt small. The office was no longer his. But Joel still showed up. He'd sit in the back of meetings he once led, nod silently, take notes no one asked him to. The air felt thinner, his voice smaller. One afternoon, Lena forwarded him an invite. A visit to a community program the company had recently funded. Just a ribbon cutting. Simple. Joel almost deleted it, but didn't. Maybe he wanted to prove he still mattered. Maybe he didn't know what else to do. So he went. It wasn't in a corporate high-rise. No glass walls. Just a converted warehouse. Bright murals on the exterior. Kids laughing in the background. Inside, volunteers moved quickly, serving meals, packing supplies, tutoring teens on folding tables. Joel stood awkwardly near the entrance, wore his suit. Everyone else wore name tags and sneakers. A woman noticed him, walked over, held out her hand. "Thank you," she said. Joel blinked. "I'm sorry? You helped fund this place. I just wanted to say thanks." He nodded. "Glad it's making a difference." The woman smiled, soft, then added, "My son used to work for you." Joel looked up. "He passed away last year." Joel froze. "I'm sorry," he said sincerely. She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. He used to come home so frustrated. Said no one ever noticed him. That he was invisible. Joel's chest tightened. He said he wanted to be more. Do more. But the place made him feel small. She took a breath. He told me you walked past him every day. Never once said his name. Joel couldn't speak. He looked up to you, she said. And you never saw him. That broke something. Joel turned away. Stepped outside. The air hit him hard. He leaned against the wall. Closed his eyes. And cried. Not out of guilt. Not out of shame. But because, for the first time, he saw. He saw what his ambition had cost. What pride had silenced. What power had made invisible. He stayed there for a long time. Breathing. Processing. And when he finally walked back inside, he didn't come as a boss. He came as a man who was finally willing to listen. Joel came back to the community center the next week. No fanfare. No announcements. Just Joel. In a plain shirt. Jeans. And a notebook tucked under his arm. He didn't try to take charge. Didn't try to fix anything. He watched. He listened. He asked, "How can I help?" At first, people kept their distance. They remembered who he was. Or who he used to be. But day by day things shifted. He helped unload deliveries. Set up folding chairs. Took out the trash without being asked. He joined a literacy workshop. Sat beside a boy struggling to read. Didn't correct him. Just encouraged. One day a teenage girl asked, "Are you that business guy?" Joel smiled gently. "Used to be." She shrugged. "You're okay now." Joel laughed. First time in a while. Back at the company, he stayed in the background. Offered to mentor junior staff. Listened more than he spoke. He didn't try to reclaim the spotlight. He tried to deserve a seat in the room. Lena noticed. She never said anything. Just watched. From a quiet distance. She saw the way he waited. The way he asked instead of assumed. The way he showed up, even when he didn't have to. There was one afternoon she passed by the conference room. Joel was there sitting with interns. Not leading. Just listening. One of them laughed. Another leaned forward, fully engaged. Lena paused. Something in her softened. That night, she looked out over the city skyline. Coffee in hand. Window open. She didn't know if she trusted him. Not fully. But she was starting to believe he wasn't pretending anymore. And that maybe, just maybe, people could change. If they really wanted to. It didn't happen overnight. Not in some grand, sweeping gesture. It happened in the small things. In the way Joel would refill the coffee pot before it emptied. In how Lena would slide over an extra folder during meetings, one he forgot to bring. They began to sit beside each other. Not because they had to, but because it started to feel natural. There was no announcement. No defining moment. Just a slow unwinding of tension. A shift in how they spoke to each other. How they listened. One morning, Lena stayed behind after a board review. Joel lingered too. He leaned against the table. Watched her pack up her notes. "You make this look easy," he said. She looked up. Smiled lightly. "It's not." "I know." A long pause. "I used to think I had to prove I was the smartest person in the room," Joel admitted. "You used to think being right meant you were strong," Lena added. Joel chuckled. "Guess we both used to think a lot of wrong things." Silence. But not uncomfortable. Just full. Over time they shared late nights finishing grant proposals. Sat side by side during long volunteer events. Walked out of meetings together. Lena started laughing more. Joel started interrupting less. Something was shifting. Something real. One Friday evening they both stayed late. Everyone else had gone. The office was quiet. Just the two of them. Joel stood at the window. The city lights reflected off the glass. He turned. Looked at her. "I want to build something that matters," he said. His voice soft. "But not just for me. Not anymore." Lena didn't speak at first. She didn't need to. There was something in his eyes. Not a pitch. Not a performance. Just truth. He stepped closer. "I want to build it with you." She held his gaze. Saw the sincerity. The man he was becoming. And for the first time she believed him. Not because of what he said, but because of how he'd shown up, day after day, without needing to be seen. She nodded. What? Soft. And that was enough. They didn't just fall in love. They built a mission. Together, Lena and Joel transformed the company into a force for good, rooted in empathy, action, and shared growth. They launched outreach programs, funded community training, mentored young leaders from places they once overlooked. Their office became more than just a workplace. It became a ripple effect. A symbol of second chances. A place where voices were heard. Their wedding was small. No spotlight. Just truth. Friends, volunteers, former interns now thriving. And one little girl from the project they once visited, holding a flower she picked herself. Lena knelt down to accept it, her eyes met the girl's, and for a brief moment, past, present, and future stood still. As Lena and Joel exchanged vows, Joel leaned in and whispered, "You gave me more than a second chance. You gave me purpose." And this time he didn't say it to be heard. He said it because he meant every word. Do you believe people can truly change? If Lena's story moved you, let us know in the comments. Subscribe to SoulTales for more cinematic stories of healing, hope, and second chances. Because sometimes all it takes is one voice, choosing to listen.